Yesterday, we stopped at this table, a nice summary of the 4 stages from stream enterer all the way to Arahant. I'll continue with the introduction after the table. Besides the 4 main classes of noble disciples, of noble persons, the Nikayas sometimes mention a pair rank just below the stream enterer. See text chapter 10, 1, section 1.3. These two, called the Dhamma follower, Dhammanusari, and the faith follower, Sadanusari, are actually 2 types belonging to the 8th category of noble disciples. The person practicing for the realization of the fruit entry. The Nikayas include this pair to show that those on the way to stream entry can be distinguished into 2 classes by way of the dominant faculty. The Dhamma follower is one for whom wisdom is dominant, the faith follower one for whom faith is dominant. It may be significant that at this stage prior to the first fruition, it is only faith and wisdom, and not the other 3 faculties, energy, mindfulness, and concentration, that serve to distinguish disciples into different types. Footnote number 3. Oops. It is also important to note that the suttas imply that the Dhammanusari and Sadanusari remain thus for an extended period of time. The position of the suttas seems to contradict the commentarial idea that the path attainer is such only for a single mind moment. If the latter were the case, this would mean that a Dhammanusari and Sadanusari are such for only a single mind moment. And this seems hard to square with sutta statements to the effect that they receive gifts, resort to lodgings in the forest, etc. This is a bit technical explanation of the footnotes. And the important part is here. There are another 2 types. Called Dhamma follower and faith follower. Let me highlight this. Dhamma follower and faith follower. What are these 2? These 2 are actually belonging to the 8th category of noble disciples. The person practicing for the realization of the fruit of stream entry. So if we go back to the table, this, the one highlighted in yellow, the person practicing for the realization of the fruit of stream entry. So it should be at the first line. Stream enterer. Not yet stream enterer, but the person practicing for this path, for this stream enterer. And what is the difference between 2? As the name implies, the Dhamma follower is one whose wisdom is dominant. And the faith follower, as the name implies again, the faith is dominant. Okay, Sister Charmaine, would you like to continue? You're muted.
The explanation of the classes of noble disciples found in the above text, an extract from the Alagadudpama Sutta, Vijaya Nikaya 22, may convey the impression that all those who attain these stages are monks. This, however, is by no means the case. The Alagadudpama extract is worded in this way only because it is addressed to monks. Text 10.1, subsection 4, corrects this impression and provides a clearer picture of how the classes of noble disciples are distributed among the groups of the Buddha's followers. As an abiding state, arahantship is reserved for monks and nuns. This does not mean that only monks and nuns can attain arahantship. The suttas and commentaries do record a few cases of lay disciples attaining the final goal. However, such disciples either attain arahantship on the brink of death or enter the monastic order very soon after their attainment. They do not continue to dwell at home as arahant householders, for dwelling at home is incompatible with the state of one who has severed all craving. Okay.
Thanks, Sister Charmaine. This paragraph shows that there are some lay people who can also attain a very high level, but for arahantship, either on the brink of death, highlighted in blue, or they enter the monastic order very soon after the attainment. Why? Because dwelling at home is incompatible with the state of one who has severed all craving. So reading this gives us householders a little bit of hope. We can attain arahantship if we want to. But of course, it's much more difficult compared to monks and nuns. Sister Aikim, would you like to continue?
In contrast, non-returners can continue to dwell as householders. While they continue to live as lay disciples, they have eradicated sensual desire and thus necessarily observe celibacy. They are described as lay followers, clothed in white, leading lives of celibacy, who, with the destruction of the 5 lower fetters, will be reborn spontaneously in the pure orbs and there attain final nibbana without ever returning from that world. Though the suttas do not explicitly say this, it is reasonable to suppose that those disciples practicing to attain the fruit of non-returning also observe full celibacy. Lay stream enterers and once returners, however, are not necessarily celibate. In the sutta, the Buddha described them as lay followers, clothed in white, enjoying sensual pleasures, who carry out my instruction, respond to my advice, have gone beyond doubt, become free from perplexity, gain intrepidity, and become independent of others in the teacher's dispensation. Thus, while some stream enterers and once returners may observe celibacy, this is by no means typical of these two classes.
Thanks, Sister Aikim. So this line explains further, non-returners can continue to dwell as householders. But for non-returners, they already observe celibacy, and this is the description. Lay followers clothed in white. Now this is interesting because you in some monastery, before you ordain as a monk, there's one stage below a novice monk called anagarika, and this anagarika, they're usually clothed in white. And in some retreat, they actually have some requirements that you have to wear white to attend the retreat, or at least a bright colored shirt. So I suppose this is the source. So we can trace back to the sutta why people wear white for a certain occasion, certain Buddhist occasions, like retreats and a stage below the novice monk called anagarika. Leading lives of celibacy, who, with the destruction of 5 lower spheres, will be reborn in the pure birds and attain final nibbana. Yes. Let's see. Okay, so this is also a key point. Lay stream enterers and once returners are not necessarily celibate. In the sutta itself, it describes lay followers clothed in white, enjoying sensual pleasures, who carry out my instruction, and then free of doubts. So while some stream enterers and once returners may observe celibacy, this is by no means typical of these two classes. Okay. Sister Billy, would you like to continue?
The Nikayas occasionally employ another scheme for classifying noble disciples, one that makes the dominant faculty rather than the level of attainment alone the basis for differentiation. The main source for this scheme is a passage in the Gita-giri Sutta, included here as text, chapter 10, 1.5. This method of classification divides arahants into 2 categories: those liberated in both ways, upato bhaga vimuta, and those liberated by wisdom, panya vimuta. The former are called liberated in both ways because they are liberated from form by their mastery over the formless meditations and liberated from all defilements by their attainment of arahantship. Those arahants liberated by wisdom have not mastered the formless attainments, but have gained the final fruit by the power of their wisdom, combined with degrees of concentration lower than the formless states.
Okay, thanks, Sister Billy.
Thank you.
Okay, there's another classification, another scheme for classifying noble disciples. It's based on the dominant faculty. Okay. So this one is divided into 2. First, one liberated in both ways, and second, liberated by wisdom. What are the difference between those two? The first one, liberated in both ways, they have mastered the formless meditations. Yes, blue. And liberated by wisdoms, they have not mastered the formless attainment. These are the key difference. One has mastered the formless meditation, the other one has not. Okay, I will continue another paragraph. Those who have attained any of the lower stages from stream entry up to and including the path to arahantship are divided into 3 categories: the body witness, Kayasaki is one at any of these stages who has mastered the formless attainments. The one attained to feel, Ditthipata. One at any of these stages who lacks the formless attainments and gives prominence to wisdom. And the one liberated by faith, we'll highlight in orange. One at any of these stages who lacks the formless attainments and gives prominence to faith. The last two persons in this typology are the Dhamma follower and the faith follower explained above. Okay. So from stream entry up to the Arahantship, we can divide into three categories. The first one is body witness. They have mastered the formless attainments. And the one highlighted in yellow is the one that we read before, the Dhamma followers, gives prominence to wisdom. And the one highlighted in orange, liberated by faith, gives prominence to faith. Yeah, both of the last two types, they have not mastered formless attainments. And the one highlighted in orange is also called the faith follower. Okay, Sister Shome, would you like to read another paragraph?
It should be noted that this scheme does not mention a person at the path of stream entry who possesses the formless attainments. This should not be taken to mean that such a type is in principle excluded, but only that such a type was considered irrelevant for purposes of classification. It seems that at this preparatory stage, the allotment of a separate category to one with outstanding skills in concentration was deemed unnecessary. In the selection of texts, I next take up the main types for individual consideration. I begin with stream enterer, but first, some preliminary comments are necessary. In the Nikayas, the great majority of human beings are called uninstructed worldlings. Asutava Putojana. Uninstructed worldlings have no regard for the Buddha and his teaching, no understanding of the Dhamma or dedication to the practice. The purpose of the Buddha's path is to lead uninstructed worldlings to the attainment of the deathless, and the stages of realization are the steps towards the completion of this process. The process of transformation generally begins with when one encounters the Buddha's teachings and gains confidence in the Buddha as the enlightened one. One must then acquire a clear understanding of the Dhamma, undertake the precepts, and enter upon the systematic practice of the path. In the suttas, such a person is called a noble disciple, Ariyasavaka, in a broad sense of the term, not necessary in the narrow technical sense of one who has already reached the paths and fruits.
Thanks, Sister Shwami. So here, Bhikkhu Bodhi will start with the stream enterer. And we are like these uninstructed worldlings, have no regard for the Buddha and his teaching, no understanding of the Dhamma or dedication to the practice. Not completely, yeah, but to some degree. So the purpose of the Buddha's path is to lead us, the uninstructed worldlings, to the attainment of the deathless. This is the goal of the Buddha's teaching. The process starts with when one encounters the Buddha's teaching and gains confidence in the Buddha. And then, this is the most important part, it's not enough just to encounter and gain confidence. We have to acquire a clear understanding of the Dhamma, undertake the precepts, and enter upon the systematic practice of the path. This is perhaps why Buddhism is not as popular, because it's not as easy as other religions where you can just believe. No, we still have to practice, put in the effort to attain the spiritual goal. Hey, Sister Aiki, would you like to read one more paragraph?
Later tradition calls a person who has faith in the Dhamma and aspires to reach the state of stream entry, a virtuous whirling, Kayana Putujana, to reach the attainment of stream entry. The aspiring disciple should cultivate the 4 factors leading to stream entry, as text 10.2 section 1 explains. These are associating with wise and virtuous spiritual guide, listening to the true Dhamma, attending carefully to things, for example, by way of gratification, danger and escape, and practicing in accordance with the Dhamma by undertaking the 3-fold training in moral discipline, concentration, and wisdom. The peak of training undertaken by the aspiring disciple is the development of insight, the thorough contemplation of the aggregates, sense bases, and elements as impermanent, bound up with suffering and devoid of a substantial self. At a certain point, when insight reaches its peak, the disciple's understanding will undergo a major transition, which marks the entry upon the fixed course of righteousness, the true Noble Eightfold Path that leads irreversible to Nibbana. As text 10, section 2.2 puts it, such a disciple has risen up from the plane of worldlings and reached the plane of noble ones. Though not yet a stream enterer, a person at this stage cannot pass away without having realized the fruit of stream entry.
Okay. Thank you, Sister Aiki. So here, at a certain point when insight reaches its peak, the important part, and then the disciples understanding there's a major transition, marks the fixed course of rightness, the true Noble Eightfold Path that leads irreversibly to Nibbana. Okay, with that, I will stop at this point. Any questions or comments? Okay, if not, would Sister Shomei like to do the dedication?
回向，愿消三障诸烦恼，愿得智慧真明了，普愿罪障悉消除，世世常行菩萨道。
Thanks, Sister Shomei. Have an insightful Thursday ahead.